over vote buying. A Lagos State High Court in Ikeja has remanded Wahab Ahmed, a chieftain of the All Progressive Congress APC, in the custody of the Economic and Financial Crime Commission EFCC after he pleaded to the offense of vote buying. The anti-graft agency arraigned Ahmed before Justice Ismail Ijelu on a 2-count charge bordering on conspiracy and vote buying during the 2023 presidential and National Assembly election. Get the details of that news coming to you from Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And moving on to The Nation newspaper. Banks fail CBN stress tests on foreign operation. Eight commercial banks have failed short of the capital adequacy ratio (CAR) required for international authorization to stress tests conducted by the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) has shown. The affected bank have been put under pressure to raise their capital base to bridge the gap, which was brought about the depreciation of the naira against the dollar and other foreign currencies. You can get the details of that news coming to you from The Nation newspaper this morning. Wanted, a consensus Edo APC candidate. The quest for a credible, formidable and strong candidate that will fly the flag of the All Progressive Congress APC in Edo State's governorship election is about to start. In the race are prominent members of the party from across the state. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as the national leader of APC, will have a huge say in who pick the tickets. Also expected to play a major role are former governors John Odige Oyegun, Adams Oshimole, state chairman of the party, Colonel David Umose, retired, former deputy governor Lucky Imasue, and the rest of them. You can get the news from The Nation newspaper this morning. Police to politicians, don't hit up Kogi. Kogi State Police Command has cautioned politicians against hitting up the state through statements that may prejudice investigation into allegation of violence. The command said it was investigating the violence against the secretary of the Electoral Tribunal in the state. You can get the details of that news coming to you from the Nation newspaper this morning. NJC clears 11 justices of Supreme Court. The National Judiciary Council (NJC) has recommended 11 Court of Appeal justices for elevation to the Supreme Court. At its 104th meeting held yesterday, the council considered the list of candidates presented by its interview committee. You can get the details of that news coming to you from the Nation newspaper. Rivers crisis. Lawmakers hold plenary disputes. Rivers crisis. Lawmakers hold plenary despite court order. The political crisis in Rivers State has worsened. Lawmakers loyal to the Federal Capital Territory FCT Minister Nyesom Wike yesterday held plenary behind closed door and under tight security at the Assembly Complex on Moscow Road in Port Harcourt despite a court order. You can get the details of that news coming to you from the Nation newspaper this morning. Remain strong in terrorism battle. Minister urges military. The Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale, has urged the military to remain focused in its battle against terrorists. He said Sunday's accidental bombing of civilians in Kaduna State should not dampen their fighting spirit. You can get the details of that news coming to you from the Nation newspaper this morning. Interior Minister, we generated 1.195 billion naira from expatriate court permit in 10 months. The Ministry of Interior has said it has surpassed its 600 million naira revenue target from issuance of expatriate quote limits in the 2023 fiscal year by generating 1.195 billion naira between January and October. Interior Minister Olubumitunji Ojo announced this during his 2024 budget defense session before the National Assembly Joint Committee on Interior yesterday in Abuja. You can get the details of that news coming to you from the Nation newspaper this morning. Moving on to the Punch newspaper this morning. Federal government asks immigration to beef up security at borders. The federal government has directed the Comptroller General of the Nigerian Immigration Service, Caroline Wuraola, to pay urgent attention to the protection of the country's land, air, and water border. Specifically, it directed that more personnel should be deployed to the nation's border for effective protection. You can get the details of that news coming to you from the Punch newspaper this morning. Ogun shuts 4 hospitals, 2 laboratories. The Ogun State government has again sealed 4 hospitals and 2 medical laboratories for contravening the regulatory law. Some of the infraction range from lack of registration, employment of unqualified personnel, operation beyond the scope of registration, and negligence, among others. You can get the details of that news coming to you from the Punch newspaper this morning. Naira falls by 17% to 951 naira to dollar. The naira fell by 17.91% to 951.22 naira to dollar on the official investor and the exporter forex window on Wednesday. This was as the dollar supply fell by 94% to $135.58 million from $142.63 million. You can get the details from the Punch newspaper this morning. Tight security as pro-Wike lawmakers elect new leaders. The crisis rocking the Rivers State House of Assembly took a new twist on Wednesday as 27 lawmakers loyal to the Speaker, Martin Amewule, sat under tight security in the complex. The Rivers State Assembly had become factionalized following an unsuccessful move to impeach Governor Similaniyi Fabura. You can get the details of that news coming to you from the Punch newspaper this morning. Federal government votes 50 billion naira for student loan. The federal government has voted 50 billion naira in the 2024 budget for the implementation of its student loan scheme. This was contained in the details of the 2024 budget appropriation. Meanwhile, details of how the loan scheme unveiled by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in June will be implemented remain sketchy, but the president gave the assurance that the loan scheme will kick off January. Get the details of that news coming to you from the Punch newspaper this morning. Moving on to penpushing.com.ng is our online platform news platform that is reliable, and the headlines reads: Group warns Adebutu against verbal attack on judges. The Center for Social Justice, a human rights and rule of law advocacy group, has called on defected governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) in Ogun State, Honorable Ladi Adebutu, to stop verbal trade against judges and the judiciary. And still on penpushing.com, Governor Obaseki presents 325.3 billion naira 2024 budget to Assembly. The Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki has presented a budget of 325.3 billion naira for 2024 to the House of Assembly for approval, while 2% each was also allocated to climate and environmental issue, electricity, youth, and agriculture. You can get the details of that news coming to you from penpushing.com and our online platform. And it's time to bring in our in-house analyst and public affairs commentator. He's a seasoned journalist and media consultant. Our own Mr. Salman Salami. Good morning and welcome to Newspaper Review this morning.
Thank you very much, the presenter, and good morning, our super citizen listeners.
let's start with River State. Many headlines from the newspapers has it that Wike and Fabra and the House of Assembly there is out for another show. What is your take on that?
Well, the signal that is coming from River State is not encouraging at all. The political development in that oil-rich state is worrisome. Worrisome in the sense that the faction allegedly loyal to the FCT minister, His Excellency former Governor Nyesom Wike, held a plenary session, and it was against a court order. You see, I've been saying it here times and times over again that we must respect the pronouncements or decision of the court of law. Whatever decision that comes from the temple of justice must be respected. The alternative is to appeal that judgment. Even while you appeal, or when you appeal, inasmuch there is no counter order or judgment from a court of superior jurisdiction or from a superior court, that judgment stands and remains the judgment of the court. It must be obeyed. When we now begin to flout the judgments from the courts, then there is a clarion call to anarchy. We are on a slippery slope to crisis. Don't let us imperil this democracy. Let us value this democracy. Some people lost their lives, paid the supreme price for us to enjoy this democracy, and there is no alternative to a democratic rule. Let us respect the pronouncements from the temple of justice. The rule of law should prevail, not the rule of thumb or the rule of man.
If I may give you a right question on that, on whose interest is Fabura and Wike and Assembly is making a lot of this hula baloo about?
No, I don't understand the question.
I mean,
you mean in whose interest?
Yes.
Well, it is in their personal and selfish interest, I want to believe. It can never be in the interest of the commoners or the masses. Why? The ordinary man in the street in River State wants peace and wants what I would describe as the bountiful dividends of democracy to be served. Is that what they are doing? I don't think so.
Okay, quickly. The national chairman of APC he said that blueprints for political liberation of Southeast, as approved by the president, is on the way. What is your take on that?
Well, from the look of things, politicians have somehow started cross-carpeting, and it is in their character anyway. But this is not a good development for our political development. It is not, in so many ways. One, the beauty of any democracy is when you have a vibrant opposition that we give alternative ways of doing things. It happened during the MPN and UPN in the Third Republic, when National Party of Nigeria was in power and the Unity Party of Nigeria, led by Baba Obafemi Awolowo, was in opposition. The UPN continually put the MPN on its toes. It was a good development because the UPN was so cerebral and seminal in such a manner that it was critical but not hostile. And the criticisms were so constructive that they always gave alternative and better way of doing things. This, I think, is how it should be, because this helps to deepen democracy, and this is the way to go.
Okay, let's quickly move to Ekiti State. The National Working Committee of the PDP had in June this year dissolved the party's executive in Ekiti State and constituted a caretaker committee with Sadiq Abunoye, an architect, as a chairman, and now called SAC Ekiti PDP caretaker committee. What's your take on that?
Well, what we might take be on the pronouncements of the court, or the pronouncement of the court. Whatever pronouncement that comes from the Temple of Justice is binding on the parties. If that is the decision of the court, so be it. The alternative is to appeal, but then caretaker committees. I think parties should be run by elected officers and not appointed, and I think that is probably what the court found to be unlawful.
Okay. Vote buying. Court remands APC shifting over vote buying. What's your take on that?
Well, vote buying is a very serious electoral offense, and we have been saying it that vote buying should not be encouraged, and that the courts, in fact, some people are even asking for a special court, electoral court, yes, a court that will solely undo electoral offenses. Whether it is right or whether we need it or not, that is still debatable. But then one thing remains clear, and that thing is that we should discourage or reduce to the barest minimum the incidence of electoral malpractice, electoral offenses. And there is always also the need for all the critical stakeholders, the political parties, the INEC, of course IPAC, as represented by all the registered political parties, to embark on political awareness, education, political education. They should educate people on what and what should be done. They should not wait until when election is about to take place. Political education should be an ongoing exercise. They should not wait until it is election time. This is not the way it should be. It's supposed to be a continuous exercise in such a manner that our people become politically savvy. because by that time they will have vital information and they will be able to make informed decision.
Okay, it's time to bring in our super citizen listeners to join this program, and you can call us on 0903 2229 797 and 0818 2222 205 and 0818 2222 206. These are the numbers you can call and be part of the program. And let's quickly move to Edo. The APC have started looking for a candidate that will vie for the governorship election in that state. What is your take on that?
Thank God that the All Progressives Congress has started the process. It is a good development if they can get a consensus candidate, but they must ensure that all interested members are given a level playing ground in such a way that if at the end of the day they are able to agree on a consensus candidate, it must be truly agreed upon willingly, freely, without coercing or without intimidating or without denying any member the fundamental right to partake or participate in the process. They should not force a candidate on the people. Let the people decide. It will even help the process, because chances are that you will come out in flying colors if the process of emergence of a candidate or the flag bearer of a party is not only seen to be transparent but visible to the blind that it is transparent.
Okay, quickly, the Minister of State for Defense regretted the incident that happened in Kaduna, the bombing, noted that despite what had happened, the fight against insurgency and terrorism must continue, and they encourage the military to work harder. What is your take on this?
The unfortunate bombing that happened last Sunday was a very sad one. It was unfortunate. It was a mistake. And just as we said the other time, and we prayed the other time, that may it never happen again in this country, and may the soul of the departed rest in perfect peace. Yes, the Honorable Minister of Defense, Minister of State, has said it all. It should not deter the military from fighting and bringing to an end the banditry, the incidents of banditry, kidnapping, and all manners of vices plaguing our country. They should not be deterred. Like I said, once again, our heart flies out to the families of the deceased, and we wish those who are in the hospital a very speedy recovery.
Okay, let's quickly get what the federal government is saying to the immigration to beef up security at borders. What is your take on that?
Well, we have said this times and times over on this platform, that our borders are porous. so porous that criminals walk in and walk out, and this is not supposed to be so. The Controller General of Immigration should sit up and be on top of our game. We need to secure our borders. We need to know those coming in. We also need to know why those who are going out are going out. There is no two ways about this. There is the need for the immigration service to secure our borders. It is very important.
Federal government votes 50 billion naira for student loan. Meanwhile, details of how the loan scheme unveiled by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in June will be implemented remain sketchy. What is your take on this?
Well, when Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu unveiled and announced that students will receive loan, the news was a very good one to the people. And why is it really a good news? It is because quite many people or many students have dropped out simply because their parents could not afford tuition fee. Indigent students who ordinarily would have had robust tertiary education or even primary, secondary education dropped out because their parents could not afford the fees. This should not be so. God has blessed this country in such a way that no student should ordinarily drop out of school because the parents could not afford the fees. This is not good enough. And we thank Mr. President for looking into this. And we want the President and the Federal Ministry of Education and all the agencies involved in the implementation of this laudable policy to please go to town with it and do the needful.
Okay, let's quickly move to Ogun State. The Ogun State government has sealed 4 hospitals and 2 medical laboratories for contravening the regulatory laws. Is this a good news for Ogun State people?
Well, it is good news. It is good. It is good news. Good news in the sense that it only means that the government is up and doing, and the government is more interested or is interested in the healthcare delivery, and the standard or the quality of the healthcare facilities, both public and private, should be looked into. I remember that there was a doctor who was harvesting kidney or organs in Jos the other time. These things like this should not be allowed to happen. Government should be proactive and not reactive. And when government is up and doing things like this, chances are that it will be nipped in the bud. And it is better to be proactive and nip such things in the bud than to be reactionary. Prevention, I always say, is not only better than cure, it is cheaper.
Okay, let's quickly move to NJC.
The merger talks.
Okay, quickly.
Let's quickly look at the merger talks between the PDP, PP, and ADC.
Yes.
In fact, APM and YPP. Well, I think the political parties are now looking inward and have started to do what I call critical thinking with a way to providing realistic and realizable solutions to what should be done. That the PDP is now in major talks with 5 other parties. It's a welcome development. APC did it when PDP was in power, and they succeeded in unseating the PDP. It happened before in the Third Republic. I will recall that, or we should recall what happened in the Third Republic when MPN was in power and the UPN went into alliance with some parties to form PPP, Progressive People's Party, including GMPP that time was involved. And they were meeting. The PRP, I remember Abubakar Rimi and the Borno State governor that time. So, it is a political solution to getting to power. What I always advocate is this. All this should be done with the aim of delivering the bountiful dividends of democracy, with the mindset of seeing political parties as vehicle to power, with the concomitant or with the mindset of rendering selfless service to the people, and not as a means of grabbing power with a view to cornering the Commonwealth, by which I mean personal aggrandizement or be driven by acquisitive instinct of politicians. That is not the way to go. If you are doing this because you want to get power and get power for the sake of getting power and having access to the treasury, this is not in the best interest of the people. What should be paramount and critical is the need to have alternative voice, because we think we can do it better. It is when we approach politics with that mindset that it becomes a good thing, and it becomes people-centered and people-driven, not a selfish or self-centered enterprise.
Okay, let's round up on this one. Illegal deduction of local government fund. PDP accuses Jigawa government. What's your take on this?
Well, I think if it is an allegation and if it is very viable, it's a good one. But if it's just a political gimmick, well, politicians will always remain who they are, and I think I will not say much on that.
That's the much we can take on today's newspaper review. Join us next time for the same program. And we want to thank Mr. Salman Salami for always being here. And we want to thank all our super listeners for paying attention and stay tuned to our station. My name is Okikiola Kosim. Thank you.